So a question I often get throughout streams, in comments, in DMs, and stuff like that, tends to often be, what are some of your favorite Animanga endings? Your favorite endings from manga or anime, top five, top three, top 10, whatever. And what better way to answer these sorts of questions than to use this channel to do so. So today I'm going to be talking about some of my absolute favorite endings in Animanga. Now, what I often find to be interesting is, obviously there are always exceptions, but to me, endings can often come in two styles. Uh, and they can sometimes, obviously intersect, but I think you can often categorize endings into one of two styles. A lot of the time, even if not all the time. And that is the everything tied up nicely, neatly in a bow, very conclusive, everything fulfilled, every character gets their moment, and then boom, nothing's really left up in the air. And it can often be very satisfying, sort of ending. The classic example I use for this one is Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood. Where I think everything's concluded well, every single character, basically, you understand what they're doing, you at least get a snapshot. It's very beautiful, it's all cohesive, it's all comprehensive. Sorry, I think my alarm just went off. It's all comprehensive. And those can be great. But a second type of ending I often see in Animanga, or in stories in general, but is, to me, a sort of abstract, creative vision of an ending in which maybe some things are left up in the air, some things are left up to interpretation, maybe there's something that's inconclusive, maybe there's a cliffhanger, who knows? And these often tend to be very bold, abstract endings that I really respect for their creative vision, but that might not be everyone's cup of tea, because maybe this character didn't get something, maybe this plot line wasn't tied up in the way people envision, maybe the story went in a direction that people didn't really enjoy too much. Maybe it's hard to understand in one way or another. And for me, a great example of that, for example, would be, sorry for the redundant language, but would be, let's say, the ending of, for a video game, Final Fantasy VII Remake or Rebirth, or for Animanga, let's go with the ending of Chainsaw Man Part 2. It very sort of a creative vision, bold, abstract, doesn't tie things up in the way people would expect, very unexpected, very left field, sort of just bold. Now, again, mileage will vary on how well these executions work. I mentioned Full Metal Alchemist. I really like that ending. I think I really find it satisfying, but I don't really like the Chainsaw Man Part 2 ending. It's up to whoever you are. But I just find that stylistically, those tend to be two types of endings. And of course, an ending can be both, an ending can be neither, but it's something I've noticed. And I think they often tend to go into one of two camps a lot of the time. So it'll be interesting going through my favorite endings in this video. I might point out, this is the bow-tied ending, or this is the abstract ending. I don't know, it could be fun. But first, some honorable mentions or asterisks series. You know me, I've always got to do Hunter x Hunter. But Hunter x Hunter is not technically done. So this has an asterisk, this isn't really part of my list. But I think the 2011 anime ending, episode 148, can work incredibly as a series ending because of the themes of the series, because of what Jing imparts in that episode. By the way, I will be lightly mentioning elements of these episodes. I won't be spoiling explicitly, but just like general things. I don't think you have to worry much about spoilers in this video. So yeah, I have a whole video on why I think that's why I think that's really that ending is really well done and really representative of the whole series. So you can check that out on my main channel if you're interested. But I thought I'd mention that. Another would be Berserk 364. For a bunch of reasons, I think that works as a series ending in a weird, abstract sort of way. Miura's death, it was the last chapter that he wrote, and it's in the middle of establishing some new plot threads that are fascinating about Griffith and the dynamic with Guts and with Casca. And for that reason, it's not what you think of as a classic ending. But for several different reasons, which I won't get into here, I think there are lots of ways in which this could be viewed as something conclusive, as a bookend to some elements of the Golden Age, even if it isn't a traditional ending. Am I maybe colored by being emotionally tied to the concept of it being Miura's final chapter? Yeah, maybe that's a big part of it, but I do genuinely feel that way. Another one for this, not quite one of my answers group, would be Bleach. I think that Bleach is one of my absolute favorite stories. It's in my top 20 fiction ever, and it could go higher, who knows, as of 2026. And I think the final arc, Thousand Year Blood War, is one of the best arcs I've ever seen, despite some problems. The ending, I think, is really good, but I think it's a little lacking in some of that comprehensiveness. I think it's very bold in a way, and sometimes very bold endings work even if they aren't comprehensive, but there are elements of it that I wish Kubo sort of hit on. I wish there was maybe another chapter. I wish there were characters that were dwelt on a bit more, themes that were dwelt on a bit more, stuff like that. A lot of which were kind of tackled in the Can't Fear Your Own World novels. So, but the reason I'm including Bleach, because I think it's a very good ending, if not, well, not quite a masterful one, is because of the final scene. The monologue from you know who, if you know, you know, the Courage monologue. That is one of the greatest scenes in all of Bleach. It's one of my favorite fictional scenes. It coalesces everything about what Bleach is about from a character who somehow becomes one of its grand theses. It's an incredible final scene, so even if Bleach as a whole isn't one of my absolute top favorite endings, I wanted to mention it for that final scene, for that monologue. I'd also say Death Note's final episode and final chapter, while not quite being at the tippy top best endings I've ever seen, I think is incredibly rich. I think it's awesome. Amazing ending. I've talked about that in videos too. I've made 4 or 5 Death Note videos on my main channel. At least a couple of them talk about why the elements of that ending are really good. Sorry, something just popped up on my screen. Okay. Are really good. So Death Note is like kind of an honorable mention. I would also say Cowboy Bebop. Cowboy Bebop is a bit weird for me because it's not a favorite series of mine. I think it's very good, but it's not quite a favorite. So I don't have that emotional connection. However, the final episode, the final couple episodes of Cowboy Bebop, I think are masterful. And if I did feel that emotional connection to Cowboy Bebop, I think it would be one of my absolute favorite. Because I don't feel that way, because I don't holistically love it, it's not quite up there, but I think it's worth mentioning as an incredible ending, one of the best Animanga endings I've seen that I really, really appreciate, even if I don't super connect with it on the level I do with something like Hunter x Hunter. Kyoso Giga is very similar to Death Note. Kyoso Giga, the Rie Matsumoto directed, still slept on masterpiece. I adore this story, this anime. 10 episodes of brilliance, absolute brilliance. I go back to it every few years and always love it. I adore it. And the ending's fantastic. Maybe not quite to the level of In the Conversation for my favorite Animanga ending ever, but man, it is so good, so I wanted to mention it here. Same with Gurren Lagann. Unbelievable ending, really, really love it, really captures my emotions and imagination, wanted to mention it. And lastly, something with an asterisk is Vagabond, which I think is a masterpiece of an ending. Specifically the... I don't even remember what it's called, the extra chapter, you guys will know if you've seen read Vagabond, but I think that is a masterpiece, and Vagabond is a favorite. I love Vagabond. However, I'm in need of a reread for Vagabond because I really think that's a story you need to read at least twice or 3 times to properly fully get and appreciate. And it's been a few years, 5 years or something, maybe, since I last read Vagabond and read that final chapter, and so I think I'm in need of a refresher, which I would like to do in the next year or so, if possible. And then I think that final chapter, that ending would really, I think, maybe make it to the level for me personally that I think it is, but that I kind of need to reread to fully appreciate. So those are a bunch of asterisks or honorable mentions. Or honorable mentions. But now here are 10 endings, and I'm not going to get into big detail about all these stories, because a lot of them I've talked about in videos or on streams, but I'll give you a sentence or two at least. This is unranked, by the way. Everything I've talked about is unranked. This is unranked too. So, 10 of my favorite Animanga endings, all of which I consider to be in the conversation for one of the best I've seen, or the best I've seen. One of them would be Ping Pong the Animation. Specifically, Ping Pong the Animation is a masterpiece, but specifically the last 2 episodes are coalesce in this incredible celebration, this vibrant, adrenaline-fueled, pulsating, thrilling finale, full of emotion and heart that really gets you going so much, more than almost anything I've ever seen, but is so full of heart and candor and humanity and raw emotion and honesty. It hits every note. I adore Ping Pong the Animation's ending. Run with the Wind. Run with the Wind is a story that, to me, I don't think it has any arcs except at the end with the Hakone Ekiden, which is the last 6 or so episodes, which is one of my favorite arcs of all time. It is the final sequence of episodes in the story, culminating in the last episode, which always gets me going emotionally, always makes me tear, and there are moments throughout the Hakone Ekiden which have seared themselves in my brain as things that always make me tear up, always get me inspired, get me emotional. The stuff with Yuki and his mom, Kakadu and Haiji, You Are Running, Shindo, every vignette, all the character vignettes and how they intersect and all the relationships and the payoff, it's just unbelievable. Run with the Wind is one of my favorite endings in anything, for sure. Another one I would add to, the third one I'll talk about that's in the conversation for this, is JoJo's Bizarre Adventure Part 7 Steel Ball Run. Crazy that Alexander AJ is saying this. Me from 3 or 4 years ago, or 5 or 6 years ago, would not have believed this to be possible for me to say that a JoJo's ending is one of my favorites in Animanga, but it really is. From the moment you hit a certain point in the series, that last stretch of the race, that last stretch of the story, where you go with, I think it's fueled and spearheaded by Diego, into a fight, a very specific fight that I adore so much. Multiple fights that I adore so much. It is just, I was in awe. I was really thoroughly enjoying JoJo's Part 7. I thought it was very good. I thought it was it was my favorite JoJo's part for sure. But that stretch made it from a very good story into one of my favorite stories, into holy shit, I love this story. And it made this, it just goes back to back to back to back masterful stuff, incredibly emotional, incredibly powerful, gutting, gut-wrenching, heartbreaking, complexity everywhere, density everywhere, and ending with one of my favorite final chapters in anything, a couple of brilliant spreads, and the culmination of a wonderful journey. Steel Ball Run's ending, incredible. And I said I'd talk about abstract versus comprehensive endings. Let me just run through. To me, Vagabond's ending, abstract. Gurren Lagann's ending, a little bit of both. Kyoso Giga's ending, to me, is pretty abstract. Hunter x Hunter, if you consider 148, pretty abstract. Berserks, if you consider 364, very abstract. I mentioned Bleach. And then if we're talking ping pong, I don't think ping pong's super abstract. I think it actually ties things together very, very well. And it's one of my favorite examples of that. Same thing with Run with the Wind. I think they're both sort of comprehensive bow tie endings. But I would consider Steel Ball Run to be a bit of both, because of some of the boldness in its execution. Some of the things that Araki does are insane in that ending. And another abstract ending, to me, that I adore, one of my favorites, is Fate Zero. In the conversation for the most important story I've ever experienced, for the way it made me view characters, stories, character analysis, dynamics, themes, and Fate Zero, despite being a prequel to me, is straight up one of the best endings, has one of the best payoffs. It is incredibly visceral. I think it ties things together incredibly well. I don't think it really leaves anything unfulfilled. And it leaves on sort of cliffhangers, but it always gives a glimmer of hope, a glimmer of light, an indication of where things are going to be. And just because stories end in a way that promises more does not mean that they aren't fulfilling. Just because a story ends, that'll continue in a different medium, for example, Fate Stay Night. It does not mean it's not fulfilling or comprehensive on its own, and I truly believe Fate Zero, through what it does with Kiritsugu's journey, Saber's journey, and how it gives you a glimpse of where that could go from then on, Waver's unbelievable coming of age, Ryder's legacy, Gilgamesh and Kide, Kadia, Diarmuid, characters that maybe have sort of lesser roles, but Diarmuid, more secondary, Irisfield, my gosh. All the characters to me get something incredibly satisfying, because Fate Zero is really an ultimate character piece for me. That really, it was the first proper character piece that I really indulged in to the extent that I do, and I think the ending pulls it off beautifully. It is the perfect tragedy, is the perfect to be continued in some ways, but also a comprehensive story. And I think it's telegraphed from the beginning that it's going to be like this. It's brilliant. It's brilliant. And that's a more abstract ending because of the nature of it. It doesn't give you a fully traditionally satisfying conclusion. And it is different, but my god, is it effective. The next one I'll talk about is Naruto. To me, Naruto is one of the quintessential examples, despite some really bold stuff throughout the story, of a comprehensive bow tie ending. Does every single character maybe get what I would want ideally? Maybe not, but I think in terms of the main things it has to hit, it does an incredible job. It does a beautiful, beautiful job, and It has satisfied me so much with what it does with all the characters, with Naruto, with Sasuke, with the thematics of the antagonists, and how it's this sort of cycle that reaches a place where maybe it's not an ending, but maybe there is hope for changing things. It satisfied me so much that I'm well aware of what Boruto is. Many people have reached out to me, are you going to read Boruto now that you finished Naruto? But Naruto's ending was so satisfying to me, and I felt so whole with it, that I didn't want anything more from the universe. I really felt that changing my experience with Naruto would actually maybe dilute my emotions and feelings towards it in a way that would not be optimal, that would kind of like dilute my feelings towards it. So for that reason, I think changing my impressions, my final impressions of Naruto, it's not something I want to do. I'm completely whole, completely satisfied. I don't need any more from the universe. It is, to me, in my heart, it's perfect. Not a perfect story, but the ending is perfect for me. So I don't need Boruto. I don't need more from the universe. Even if I would love to be in there more because I love Naruto so much, it's a rare thing for me to just feel like that's all I need. And I can revisit it, but that's all I need. I don't need more, and it's so good because of that. I feel similarly with Breaking Bad. That's why I never watched El Camino, despite some people being very upset about that. Last five, Hoseki no Kuni. This ended a couple of years ago. Unbelievably bold, masterful story that in some ways is bow tie in some ways, but is also incredibly abstract, incredibly creative, but also similarly left me feeling so whole. Hoseki no Kuni, I have some art to my left, your right. Sorry, the camera's a bit weird. Right over my thumb here. I recently went to Anime North and got some incredible art for Hoseki no Kuni. What a story. I'll hold that up for a second. But yeah, that would be another of my absolute favorite endings. And then the last few, Attack on Titan. I started out with this one, and this is a one that not many people might agree with, but I started out with this being like, it's a good ending. It's a good ending. I have some problems with this one. I definitely feel there are some notable problems, but overall it's a good ending. That's how I felt at the end of the manga. People hated it. I understand why some people hated it. And I had mixed feelings to an extent. While being positive, I was still mixed. It took the anime adaptation and seeing this enhanced presentation with voice acting, incredible direction, some structural changes and flow changes, to really sort of give me a different complexion on that. But it was so well done, and I'm not to say it's without any problems, but it was so well done that suddenly it became an ending I could never stop thinking about from when I saw the adaptation for it. It is so well done. The soundtrack, the visuals, the voice acting for Armin is unbelievable, out of this world. Some of the scenes, some of the way they direct the flow of it, it's so well done. And it suddenly snuck up on me, and I'm like, wow. Is Attack on Titan one of my favorite endings in Animanga? Yes, it is. It is one of the best endings I've ever seen. Not to say there aren't problems, because I will be fully willing to talk about problems in Attack on Titan's ending, and I have talked about them. For more information, you can go to my main channel. A few months ago, I posted a video that is basically a retrospective of Attack on Titan. Go to the section for the last arc, and in it, I talk about some problems I have, because I do think there are problems, but the masterful positives are so damn good that they so outweigh the negatives, and it makes it one of my favorite endings. It's bold, it's courageous, it is so abstract with certain things it does. It is one of those abstract endings. It is so hopeful, so strangely hopeful. It gives so many of the characters such a great ending. It makes you have this painful hole in your heart that is, oh god, it hurts so good. And it's captured my soul for days on end. After finishing it, I was so emo. So yeah, Attack on Titan. One of my favorite Animanga endings. The last three. Let's go with this one. For me, a mix of abstract and bold theming, and tied up very well. Kind of a merger of both. Monster. To me, this is like a perfect ending. It is exactly what I wanted out of the series, because I think the series is so sprawling and epic and dense that you needed to be comprehensive to an extent with the characters and where they end off, and with the theming, but at the same time, Monster is bizarre. Monster is strange. It does really all over the place interesting things with its character work and thematics and what it does, what it explores. So it wouldn't feel right if it wasn't a little out there, and it is. It is, specifically with what it does with its main villain in that finale, and how it leaves you wondering. Incredible ending. Like I said, close to perfection, if not perfection. And then my last two. If you push me, I might say these are my two favorite endings in Animanga. Maybe, not definitively, but these could be my two favorites. Neon Genesis Evangelion. The 1-2 punch of the very, very out there in terms of presentation, minimalistic, but also incredibly creative at times, psychological work of the anime ending. The very tour de force creative masterstroke that is very hit or miss for people. Some really don't like it, some think it's lazy or completely misses the mark of what they want in the series. Some adore it. I'm in the latter camp. That alone is one of my favorite endings in anything. But then if you add on the other side of things, the sort of different, the external point of view in some ways, because it goes very introspective as well, but the complement to it with End of Evangelion. One of my favorite movies of all time, definitely my favorite anime movie of all time, even though it's got competition with Kizumonogatari and others. But it's definitely my favorite anime movie of all time, maybe my favorite movie of all time. A true, bizarre, visceral, epic, emotional, abstract, ambitious masterpiece that makes you just appreciate what stories are and appreciate creative visionaries like Hideaki Anno, and all that he pours into his work. That 1-2 punch of Eva is one of the best endings I have ever seen, in the conversation for the best ending I've ever seen. And it is without doubt, if you watch both of them, both the anime ending, the End of Eva ending, without doubt, one of those left field, bold, strange, abstract endings, but holy hell, is it up my alley. Unbelievable. Some will say that one or the other is, you can end Eva with one ending or the other, and you don't need both. I would disagree with that. I think you need both. I think they complete each other. But on their own, they are absolutely, individually, two of my favorites as well. So together, it's just God. And then the last one I want to mention, you probably guessed it, this probably doesn't come as a surprise, is the ending. So let me just go back and say Attack on Titan, specifically the anime ending for Attack on Titan, is one of my favorite endings. But for this, because it's not completed in the anime yet, the manga ending for Haikyuu. Now, this is one that, to me, is the best example of a bow tie ending. Every character gets the most brilliant payoff you can ever get, and some of that payoff is definitely very interesting and abstract, and interesting things are done with the theming, but it is just so comprehensive. It does everything perfectly. It gives every character his moment, his or her moment. The majority of the cast is males, which is why I say his, but Yachi and a lot of the female characters get great stuff as well. Shimizu, it gives you this series-long payoff, this incredible payoff to some of the most loose plotting, not necessarily plotting in a deliberate Attack on Titan, this recontextualizes this, this leads to this, foreshadowing, etc., like mechanical plotting way, but more character writing plotting, where chapter titles based off of character journeys are, earlier on, and then there's a part 2 hundreds of chapters later, and it coalesces in some of the best payoff you'll ever see. It is unbelievable. I'm often, oh my god, I can't even talk. I'm often gobsmacked at the sheer weight of everything that Haikyuu does, of how perfectly it pulls off everything, and it leaves me wanting for more. It's not like Naruto. It's interesting how different sorts of endings give you different feelings. This isn't a slight on Naruto at all. I just gushed incredibly about it. But Haikyuu has that sort of perfect ending. But also, I would not complain for a continuation of the story at all. And I don't think it would dilute anything. It just gives me everything I could have wanted for one of my favorite casts of all time, while being incredibly dynamic, ending with potentially, it's my number 2, but arguably the best match in the whole series. The epitome of character payoff, the coalescing of all these ideas, and how the court, what monsters are, what the court represents, how you can be how you can pursue things on and off the court, but how that sort of experience can change your life one way or another. These connections, the beauty of sport, the beauty of the human experience, whether it be sport or otherwise. Haikyuu is perfect. And that ending is one of the best I've ever seen. Maybe the best in Animanga. Like I said, it's between Haikyuu and Eva, with ones like Fate Zero and Attack on Titan and Monster and stuff like that on its coattails. But yeah, those are some of my favorite Animanga endings of all time. I don't think I've forgotten any. Feel free to let me know if you think I have, but I don't think so. And yeah, those are that's a pretty definitive list of my favorite Animanga endings of all time. Feel free to share your thoughts on any of the ones I've talked about. Feel free to share your own, maybe a top 5 or top 10. Mine was unranked, like I said, pretty much unranked, but you can rank yours if you want to, up to you. Or you could just give 1 or 2 or whatever you want to say. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Really appreciate it. Thank you so much.